Hello, team. It's time for the Daily Detangler. Hello. It's Detangler with your Daily Detangler. And I want to talk to you a little bit about detangling waste. And what is that tangle? Wasted what? What do we mean by effort? And what have I learned about effort? And then what's the impact I can have if I detangle myself from the waste tangle? So picking up in the series of detanglers about the 5 common tangles. The first detangler I did was on the control tangle. And today it's about the waste tangle. It's a waste of time. And the reason why this tangle is important is this one can actually be an unstated, hard to find tangle. And it shows up a lot, especially when somebody is being asked to do something new and contribute to that something new. So in other words, it really shows up when it's not my agenda. When I think about my past tangle, waste tangle, it has to do with perhaps somebody else's focus, priorities. Maybe it has to do with Catalyst coming up with some inputs, and I put the work in and I'm not sure what happens and what I get out of it. So the waste tangle is, it's this idea of it's a waste of time. And I feel that way when I'm not sure what my impact is. Because I've been taught and I believe that time is a valuable resource, and what I spend my time on really matters. And the reason why this tangle is also important is this type of challenge can show up in our work that we're doing. I think a lot of what I'm seeing has to do with collective alignment and our work to become aligned as a cohesive team to actually create something together, and by strengthening the bonds that are between us. The challenge that I've had when a waste tangle shows up is I'm not sure how to contribute to that. And I hear myself, and what I talk about in my mind track is, well, I'm underperforming, where my role as a team member, I feel like I'm not meeting the expectation of the team leader. Or perhaps I feel like I'm overachieving or overperforming, and my work as a team member is maybe exceeding the expectations of a team leader. That's happened to me in the past. That really happens on this current team because the bar is always set high. But on previous teams, I've actually had a higher view of what performance is than my own team leader, and it felt like I was overperforming. And then ideally, the perfect place would be, I think a sweet spot would be the team leader's view of what it means to perform and my view of what it means to perform aligned. And I see the waste tangle come up in both situations where, the team leader has a high expectation, but in my perception is, boy, that's a new standard I have to hit. Let me put the effort in, let me put the work in, and then let me see what the payout is. And if I don't get feedback, I'm fine. But if I do start getting feedback that maybe I'm not meeting expectations, I can feel like I'm wasting my time because I'm not closing the gap. When I think about it in the second bucket, where perhaps my perception is that I'm overperforming and I'm doing a lot of work and I'm doing a lot of heroic effort, and the collective expectation is to have a lower standard or to have a lower bar, I can feel like I have the whole, weight of the world on my shoulders. And I can learn over time that it's all on me and I have to do all these things. So when I do all these things, if I don't get some sort of payout, I can beat myself up that I'm wasting my time. This one happens a lot. I've been the high performer in most teams and most situations. I haven't been on a high performing team where everybody pulls their own weight, like we see here in our team, where everybody's contributing and everybody's engaged. and doing what they need to be doing, etc. I'm usually the perceived as I have a perception that I'm doing the heroic effort, I'm overperforming, everybody else around me isn't. So I'm the one that needs to pay out. I'm the one that needs a pat on the back. Me. And if I don't get that, I feel like it's a waste of time because I don't get the affirmation or the confirmation. And that individual view in both situations can lead to feeling like I'm wasting time. I can feel like I'm wasting time if I never achieve a bar on the left. And I can feel like I'm wasting time because I'm doing too much. And I'm always doing stuff, and yet I don't get a perceived payout. And ideally, we'd want to be aligned in both. So that leads me to thinking about, well, if that's the case, if I feel like I'm always, underperforming or overperforming, and both of those lead to the waste tangle, then why am I here? What's the issue? And what am I doing? Am I really wasting time? And if I think about in the past, have I been engaged, and if I've been engaged over time, I can think about that as on this top line here, where I can think about, well, I've been highly engaged over time, and that's a lot of effort. That's a lot of time I've invested. That's a lot of consistency of output, things like that. But I've also been in a space where, I'm not gonna do this anymore. I'm gonna ratchet back. I'm gonna be less engaged over time. And I'm going to make that choice because I feel like I'm wasting my time on the top line, and I might as well just ratchet back to the bottom line. Well, that waste tangle, when I feel that way, can be a challenge because it be basically the work that I do is because I have to do it. If the waste tangle kicks in, for me, I end up telling myself, well, I got to do this because I have to do it. And that's not fun. Doing something because I quote unquote have to feels like it's heavy and controlling, and I'm a cog in the wheel. The flip side is, if I think about it in a completely different perspective, to say, why am I doing what I'm doing? And when I put the effort in and put the time in, what am I getting back? And what if it's in an area that I'm passionate about? What if it's in an area that I have strengths in? What if it's an area that I really want to embrace and become an expert in? What if it's an area that allows me to grow personally and professionally, and I do that because I want to? And that's the top line of wanting to. So this gap in the middle is a choice of where do I choose to spend my time. And if it's a discretionary effort, I like that phrase of I can choose what to do with it. I can allocate that at my discretion. And that leads to in order to understand this waste tangle, I have to ask myself, well, why am I doing what I'm doing? Why am I here? What am I actually doing? And then, what's the return? What's my expected return? And I think that is a important consideration for me, because the reason why I do something, the reason behind it, my intent, it drives my expectation. If my intent is to prove I know a lot of things, then my expectation is people have to tell me that I know a lot of things. And if they don't, then I've wasted my time. If my intent is to grow, and my intent is to explore, and my intent is to run experiments to see what happens, then my expectation is different. It's about people engaging and being curious. So that's the challenge with the waste tangle, is it can feel like I'm wasting my time if I don't have my perspective. And the reason why that's important in the work that I'm doing is that it's knowledge work. The knowledge work that I'm doing, it's much easier to feel like I can just do it on my own and not talk to anybody. But the nature of the challenges that we're tackling really require me to work with other people. So how do I feel like in myself, how do I detangle myself from wasting my time with others? Sounds kind of like I'm a jerk, but that's a human nature thing, is, do I really want to spend time with these people? And what am I getting back from them? And so when I think about that, there's this give and get. There's this, I get inputs from other people. the inputs I get, I can either get them from myself or I can get inputs from other people. If I choose to get inputs from other people, at what point does that become a waste of time? If I choose to do it on my own, at one point does that become a waste of time? Same thing with the next step. If I get an input from somebody and I do my work, or if I do something value added, at what time does that become a waste of time? When, for example, over engineering something, or perhaps halfway doing it, as Ron Swanson says, and I have no idea why this is popping into my head, but I love his quote: don't half-ass two things when you can whole ass one thing. And I love that quote. So this idea of, am I accomplishing something value added? So I get value from others, and hopefully I get value back. There's this give and get that moves us forward in our knowledge work so that we can produce outputs that other people consider as valuable. So at what point does this become a waste of time? Right? Like, is it a waste of time to get inputs from people? At what point is that a waste of time? Is it a waste of time for me to give feedback? At what point does that become a waste of time? Is it at what point does the work I do become a waste of time? If I'm toasting and creating outputs that are at random to oblivion, at what point does that become a waste of time? If I don't do any work, at what point does that become a waste of time in other areas? Things like that. I mean, it's the collective view that's important for me to detangle myself, is to think about, what's the waste, what's the idea of waste in a team, in a collective view, not an individual view. And the sum of our impact, the sum of our give and take becomes the impact we have economically, functionally, or technically, and our emotional impact through our experiences we create. So anything that helps that technically is not a waste of time. And that's the piece that's important for me to detangle myself. Anything that contributes to a positive exchange or a positive give and get relationship technically isn't a waste of time. But that leads me to, well, I got to detangle myself, because my perspective is to isolate. If I'm going to isolate, it's going to be like, well, I gave my time, I created something, I thought about it, I responded to other people. If they want me to do that more and more and more, I'm going to be wasting my time. But so what's the bare minimum? What's the bare minimum on this isolated perspective? Anything that asks me to do above the bare minimum is going to feel like I'm wasting my time. But I have to get back to, what's the give and get relationship I need to have? What's the value I need to be creating? If I go and I say, well, let me move beyond that, let me get engaged. Well, let me share observations. Let me build on top of others and invest the time to explore. Let me learn something new. Well, at what point does that become a waste of time? That's an interesting question, right? I can start detangling myself and saying, through this engagement, what am I getting back and what am I giving? And maybe I'm getting something back that's valuable. And then if I choose to, through the discretionary effort that I want to apply, if I choose to collaborate and try something new and take that leap and create something from nothing and take action and see what happens, what's my return there? And each of these has a payout. When I'm in my isolated view, what's the payout? Well, I need confirmation. I need confirmation that what I did was right. If I'm in an engaged perspective, what do I think I need the payout is? Well, I think it has to do with, there's some sort of insight that I didn't know before. And then, the collaborative perspective, what's the payout there? It might be something like, creative or innovation, something new gets created from nothing. Stone soup happens and it's better than I could have ever imagined. And this is an interesting one. So just using this detangler today that I'm creating here, in my isolated perspective, when I thought about and I think about the emotional response of the waste tangle, it's I need confirmation, I need confirmation, I need confirmation, I need the pat on the back, I need the positive input. But by doing this detangler, moving to an engaged perspective, to engaging in the content and trying to provide something of value to the team, I've gained new insights. This whole deck is an insight. It didn't exist before I started doing this. So what's What's the insight there? And then at some point, collaboration, because the perspective I have about working together with others drives the perceived return on effort. My perspective of engaging equals, that perspective drives whether or not I consider it a waste of time. If my perspective is let's collaborate in order to get the payout of an innovation, I can have a different perspective of what it would take to waste time. And I would ask myself, well, is it a waste of time at all? Why am I involved? If it's about we and us, my perspective is valuable. If I think about what the benefit is, well, we create something together. That's the benefit. And who does it impact? It impacts other people. If I have that perspective, then is it a waste of time to put something out in that regard, or to work with other people? If I think it's all about me and I'm important and I can use it in me, I can lead to a view that I'm wasting time. So to detangle myself in this space of the waste tangle, it's engaging with more humility, to be more curious and practice empathy for what's really happening, to be more on the we side, engaging in that and collaborating to find the win-win and explore what's possible together, to humble up and say, okay, fine, this might feel like a waste of time, but is that reality? And maybe it's my perspective of why I'm here and what I'm doing and my view on discretionary effort that's leading me to feel like it's a waste of time. And I need to be more we focused and less me focused. And that ties to our principles of having courage, but more importantly, leading with me to understand that when I start feeling like it's a waste of time, I need to check that and be more humble and humble up. And I need to help other people see that maybe in that wasted, they feel like they're wasting time, to reflect on why they're really contributing or why they're really here and what they're trying to achieve and who is it for really. In the area of Stone Soup, who is it really for when you contribute to creating something from nothing like Stone Soup encourages? So that's been today's Daily Detangler on this idea of wasted time. And that's how I've been thinking about and trying to figure out how to untangle myself from the waste tangle. Look forward to your feedback. Take care.